Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Sheley Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Sheley Walker, and today I'm here with Sheley Brien. And today we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about just how to make it in today's world. And so, Sheley, why don't you introduce yourself with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. Excited to be here. Definitely my group of gals that are tuning in here. But I'm an Arizona native. I currently run and operate a commercial construction company with my husband. We have about a team of 10. We have a couple amazing kids. I have too many four-legged animals that I would like to mention. But all of it, my career has been anything but normal. Let's just say that. And I'm so grateful for it, all the ups and downs and all the lessons that I've been able to learn and apply to what we're doing right now.
Well, first of all, you said construction. So anytime that stereotypically you think construction, you think men, not women. And so the fact that you're in construction, I think is fantastic. So let's talk about that because I have been in several industries that are male dominated as well. So how do you, I'm going to say this and I'm not going to mean it the way I'm going to say it, but gain their respect and their trust and get them to believe that you're not just a female, that you have something upstairs and things to offer you, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, no, I get how you're asking that question. I get it. It's a touchy subject, and it's like working in these male dominated industries as a woman, I think has a lot of upsides when we do it right. I've had a lot of experience in this. So I first was in the financial industry. In a huge brokerage office. I was one of five women, over 50 people in this office. So I already had experience there in my early 20s. Then I moved on to the pharmaceutical industry where you could be low level and a female and everything was okay. But if you wanted to go to executive, that was not okay. It was definitely the old man's club where they all just pat each other on the back. And then in the restaurant ownership, media, and now here I am in construction, back again in a very male dominated industry. And one thing that I can say, because I'm definitely not the one that's like, oh, lean on, I'm probably going to go against everything you've ever heard. Lean on your feminine side, lean on that. Like you bring value, everything's great. I'm like, no, what it comes down to and what I really appreciate about working with men is that there's no BS. It's get to the point and move on. And so when you can take that mentality really in, and listen, I'm not saying it's easy. Okay. As a woman, we innately overthink things, but when you take it in and you truly don't overthink the no that you tell someone, nope. And you don't wonder, oh my gosh, should I hurt their feelings? Is this going to affect them later or whatever? You just make the action and move on. That is, I think, one of the most important things that you can do. The other thing is deliver. When you say you're going to do something, or you're going to bring value, is deliver. Deliver immediately. Don't ask opinions because you own the work that you're doing. You are worthy of that work, that you have that position. So deliver on what you say you're going to provide in whatever role that you're in, just as we would elsewhere. You know, I'll share this as like a funny story. And maybe you can resonate with it is, you know, I work now with my husband and we've worked in other capacities in our life, but we've had very different career paths. He has this thing that he used to say to me. He's like, I just moved on with my life. And I used to like immediately when someone says that to me, I was like, oh, that kind of pissed me off. And then I'm like, how freeing is that? He just moved on. There's no more thought about it. And so when I find myself getting worked up or excited or worrying about someone else that I can't control their reaction, I just simply go to myself, I just moved on with my life and I just move on. It's one of those things. Let it go, move on.
I love that. So a funny story with me. My husband, his sister and her husband were living in Israel. This is my first interaction with her. And without going into too much detail because of time, but they get in a fight. And so she pulls him out of the car because he was late. Well, she forgets that she held us waiting for an hour and a half the day before. So he just went to inquire about something and he hurried along. But she was upset that she had to wait. And so she chewed him out. It was really embarrassing in front of all of us. And so he gets back in the car because we were all getting in the car going somewhere. And I tried to say something and he just won't say a word for a second. And I'm like, what's going on? So within less than 5 minutes, we're now stopping at our first stop, which was she wanted a drink. And so we went into use the bathroom and get a drink after not even being in the car very long. And she goes and she welcomes him like this, meets him in the aisle. And I'm like, okay, this is weird because she just chewed him out and he doesn't say anything. He just goes and gives her a hug. And I'm like, what kind of dynamic and weirdness is this, right? And so what I realized with their family is that's how they deal with it. Hey, that was her way of saying, I'm sorry. He said it's okay. And then they moved on and it's never talked about again, right? And so I think that, family drama, family dynamics, backgrounds come into play a lot of times. And so as women, we overanalyze, we overthink, and sometimes you do just let it go. Can you control it? Not at all. And if you can, okay, then fix it and move on. But if you can't control it, especially another person's actions, then why are you dealing with so much time and energy into it? So that's fantastic.
Agreed.
All right. So with stress, because stress in a high impact career that you're in, there's a lot of deadlines, there's a lot of people, safety is an issue. How do you deal with stress and how has that affected you?
Yeah, well, I will share a little bit of a story, just a personal story, because I share this as often as I can, simply because I want other people to become aware of how impactful stress can be on your life and really leave lasting impressions. And then I'll provide just how I have been able to work through stress, because it doesn't go away at all. Now, what happened to me is when I was in the financial industry, I very quickly, think boiler room, right? So I already said it's male dominated. I'm a high achiever. I'm like chip on my shoulder, watch out, let me go do this. In about 2.5 years, I was managing in my very early 20s, about $17 million that I got. I worked so hard. And then I decided I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And so I transitioned careers over to the pharmaceutical industry. At that point, I had worked so hard to build that book of business, to prove everybody wrong and myself right, that I had weakened my body. And a virus that over 90% of us have, which is if you had chickenpox, you have the virus too, comes out in adults as shingles. So that's called the zoster virus. And that virus, if you had chickenpox, now there's vaccines for the kids for it. I think we should all just still keep getting it. But that virus sits dormant in your body. And when your body becomes weakened by stress, illness, stress is really the biggest one, it can trigger and activate again. And that's where you see shingles as an adult. Well, it came out in my optic nerve in my early 20s. And because I didn't manage my stress and take care of my health, it actually left me blind in my left eye. So at 24 years old, I went blind in my left eye and it was beyond repair. There was nothing that we could do about it. As you can imagine, pretty pun intended, eye-opening moment. Like, okay, wait, I'm a high achiever. I've been a high achiever my whole life, sports, school, all the things. But I never really took taking care of myself as a priority. And when it comes to stress, it will leave a lasting mark on you. Whether you see it coming or not, it will. And so it is important to recognize. And the first thing is recognizing it, not saying, I'm okay, it's fine. I'll take care of myself when. I'll do that when. The when will come and it will surprise you as it did me. And so recognizing like, whoa, I feel a little bit over the top right now. And there's just so much going on in my life that I can't handle it. So recognizing that it's there is step number one. Number two is owning the fact that as high achievers, women business owners, just women in general, stress isn't going away. So there is a lot out there that talks about reducing your stress, right? That goes in one ear and out the other for me. Stress doesn't go away. but you can manage it. You can become stronger with it. So understanding that you are not going to necessarily reduce your stress, you're going to learn how to manage it better. So recognizing it, understanding that you are going to manage it. And the third thing I would say is bringing it back to what you can control. A lot of times when we feel stress and stress that even takes us over the top, it's because we are trying to control something which we have never had the control of. And here's the most freeing part of it. Guess what's the one thing that you can control in your life? You. That is it. And so when you understand that and own it and be like, okay, I can't control that on a construction site that someone accidentally cut and this happened. Someone accidentally cut a low voltage wire for the entire building during demo. Okay. I can't control that happened. I mean, we could take safety precautions, all of that, but it happens. It was an accident, right? Instead of letting that get over the top, what can I control? I can control how I'm going to respond. I can control how, as a company, we're going to respond. I can control by taking responsibility, because ultimately, as general, it's our responsibility. It doesn't matter who did it. It's ours. So owning that responsibility, reaching out, making the connections and getting that wire back up, that's everything that I can control. So I'm going to bring it back to what I can control, which ultimately gives me more power. It gives me more focus. It reduces or manages my stress because I'm taking care of what I can right now. Yep. And so bringing it back to you which sounds selfish, and it should be. Bring it back to you. Bring it back to what you can control. Take those action steps forward, even if it's like, you know what? I'm not going to let this bother me. I'm not. I can't control how this person is going to respond to whatever news they're going to get. But I can control how I am going to respond and work with them. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
And I call that locus of control, because when I was going through my first marriage and decided to end it because of my health, I had been diagnosed with MS and my body had been shutting down and I was getting worse and worse and worse. I think I'd probably be dead by this point if I weren't. But the crazy thing is that after I went through that divorce and was retested, the MS was gone. So it was either not ever MS that I had been diagnosed, but all the markers were there, like the spinal tap and the markers were there. But clearly the stress was just so outrageous that your body, you never know how your body responds. And so that's when I learned a very valuable lesson that really is what you just said. The only person you can control is yourself. And no matter how much I wanted that marriage to work, and no matter how much I tried, if the other person doesn't or is incapable, there's nothing else you can do. So then the next question is, am I okay with that lifestyle? Am I okay with the person the way they are? And it's either yes or no. And if the answer is no, then why? And that goes with everything. That goes with the people that you work with. And it's the same when you have employees. I remember having a conversation with somebody saying there's two people in this room that are fighting for your job, because there was her supervisor and me. And I said, you're not one of them. And so either you do want to work here or you don't, but we need an answer on that, or we're going to make the answer for you. And so, or the decision. And so I think that that's the part, is when you can finally realize, stop trying to control everything, because you never will. That's the part that's important. And so the next question I want to ask you is that you say you work with your husband. There's a lot of listeners, I'm sure, as entrepreneurs that are trying to build a business with their husband. And so what is some of the advice that you would give them? Because we really don't talk about this. We talk about being moms, but part of being a mom is also being a wife, if you are married. And so how do you make sure that your marriage remains the most important partnership when you're going into business, and after, it's not 5 o'clock, I'm sure, when you shut down, but when the closed sign goes on the business and now the open sign is on the marriage and family, how do you have a successful marriage?
What a great question. And you're right. This doesn't get talked about enough. And I don't think there's any right way. I'm going to share how we do it. And it's been a learning curve, learning roller coaster, let's call it. And And just to give everyone perspective, you know, we've been together 22 years, married 19. So we started with nothing. We've built it up. We've lost it. We've built it up, like all the different things, corporate, he never worked corporate, all of it. You know, there's a few things that we focus on, and you had mentioned it just a little bit ago, or just a moment ago, that you said we talk about being moms, but some of us, you know, if you're married, you're also a wife. I always reverse that. So I'm a wife first. And that is the most important thing for me, because if our partnership as husband and wife doesn't remain the top priority above everything else, I'm talking the kids, above the business, above family dynamics. Holy cow, that could be a whole nother episode. Above all of that, if we don't remain that as both of us having that as the priority, it's not going to work. It's not. And we both have we both grew up in divorced families. Like, so we're like, we learned a lot of what not to do, which we could apply, you know, we recognize and could apply to our marriage. Now, that's number one. Number two is, I would say, communication. As cliche as it sounds, think about any time you've held a position in any organization, whether it was an entry-level position and or like executive level position, or you're the owner leading your company right now. If there is whenever there is an issue, it is a lack of communication. The example that I just mentioned about the low voltage wire getting cut in this building, lack of communication. It wasn't communicated. Don't cut this one wire, right? When we're demoing out in a space. So everything is a lack of communication. And so when you know that, it is empowering, because that's easy to fix. Let's boost our communication. How do we do that? Chris and I, we actually, this afternoon is our standing weekly meeting that is 100% business focused. And we have an agenda on what we're going to talk about as leading this organization. No team members are involved. This is us. And this one is 100% business. The other things that we do as far as communication is just back and forth. We're both problem solvers. Our strengths and our weaknesses are actually opposite, so we balance each other out. That being said, we're both problem solvers. So as problem solvers, knowing that we hear issues, we want to fix issues. Sometimes being a good communicator is listening. So, and if we don't know, we have made it a rule of like, do you want me to listen now, or do you want me to solve this? Right. What do you want me to do? Yep. And sometimes, you know, it's like, I just need you to listen because I just got to unload and I've got no one else to talk to right now. Great. I'm going to be that person for him. And we either do that at our meetings or anytime. I mean, we are, you mentioned when it closed off, and like when we hit closed for the day. And what I will say is, because we both love the game of business, we don't ever have closed. Actually. And this might go against, you know, what everyone says is you should have these boundaries on these hours and all of this stuff. We actually don't have that. We'll go in between conversation of business and family all the time because we love it. Mm-hmm. Also, we include our kids. So our kids are coming along. We have a 12 and a 14-year-old. They are coming along this journey with us, understanding the business, hearing the things, sharing in the goals, and what the goals mean to everybody, not only the business, but to them as well, has been really important to us. So again, bringing it back to that communication. And the last thing I'll leave you with, husband and wife, right, is we have our standing Tuesday afternoon meeting, that is strict business. And we follow an agenda to keep moving the needle forward. We also have two dates scheduled every week. And I recognize that not everybody can do this, right? It can be hard, but a date doesn't have to mean like going and sitting at the bar. It can also mean going for a walk in your neighborhood, right? It doesn't have to be defined anyway. We have a Wednesday date night, and we have a Friday lunch date before the kids are out of school. Right? So you don't need any childcare there. It's already taken care of. So we have these dates set, and on these dates, sometimes we talk business, Sometimes we talk about our goals, or we talk about a trip, or we share funny stories, or whatever it is. But those are scheduled times, 3 scheduled times on our calendars that do not move for nothing. So having that priority, that keeps us as the priority.
I love that. That's great advice. And to take it and escalate it even more, if you look at a triangle, and so you have the husband here, you have the wife here, and you have God here, right? And so making sure that you have the priority. So kids are not mentioned in the triangle. Yes, kids are a result of that. But I think that that's the part that a lot of times marriages do struggle, because they put the kids first for the whole time. And then all of a sudden their kids are gone and they don't have a relationship anymore. And it's interesting because the book that I just wrote right there, Flipping the Iceberg, is that you have so many baby boomers are getting divorced now. And why is the reason for that? There's many reasons, but it's just making sure that you have that relationship with each other. And so I love how you introduce that it's your husband or your wife first and then the children, because it really should be like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you incorporated your faith in God. Like it's like Jesus is number one, and then it's us, and then the kids, and then the animals, and then the business. So yep.
So true. Okay. Time management. How do you handle, you just like rattled off a whole list. So let's go into that when you talk about your family and your animals and your business. I mean, how do you structure your week?
This is something, I love that you went here, because this is something that is ever evolving for me. Chris, my husband, he manages the field. So he's out in the field. I manage our internal teams, our internal operations, which does leak over into the field some. But he doesn't have as much control on his schedule, because it's dependent upon the projects that we have going on. I, on the other hand, get to make my schedule. And so what I have found in my role, and the responsibilities that I bring to the company, is that I work better in blocks. So I use big blocks. I don't take on what is called like a manager's schedule, except for 1 day a week, where it's like meeting, because you get nothing done. You literally get nothing done. And then at the end of the day, you're like, I am spent and I feel like I did nothing for the business. And so you just don't feel good. And so for me, Tuesdays are my meetings day, and I just walk into it knowing like I'm pouring into the company, but I'm not like going to feel like I got my things done today. Mondays, I try not to have, there are 0 meetings. And if I do, they're after lunch. So I get my morning block. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, same thing. I have a morning block and an afternoon block. And what I have found, and I just did an episode on this not too long ago, is really focusing more on like the Eisenhower matrix, looking at what is urgent versus what is important. And oftentimes they're opposites. And for me, in our role and where we are taking the trajectory of our company, is I need to focus on the important. Anything that's urgent, I delegate out. So if it's urgent, if fire, it's very rare that it's a fire and important. It's usually just a fire. So I delegate that out for someone to handle and recognize that they can handle it. And then I can focus on the major needle moving leadership, organizational items that I need to keep bringing us along.
I like that a lot. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So I see a book on your bookshelf, because I always like to see what's there.
Yeah.
Triathlon, right? So what are some of the things that you enjoy doing? I mean, because as a mom, as a business owner, you have to have an out of some sort. And so what is your thing that you do to either relieve stress or spend time self-care? Because that's the word a lot of people like to use.
Yeah. Well, I know, and like I shared about my eye, I know the more that I pour into me, the better I can pour into everybody else. So I always like take care of me first. And what that means is we just talked about schedule. Every Sunday, I'll review my schedule for the next week. And I actually place on my schedule when I am going to the gym. I feel great when I go to the gym. And so it's important. Some days it's a 30-minute workout. Some days I get a full hour. either way, it's on my schedule. And once it's on my schedule, it's there and no one else can take that time. So going to the gym, feeling good coming out, I crave almost the high at the end of it. I absolutely love that. And the other thing that I do, which I'm very blessed to be able to do, is I show horses competitively. So I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. And now my daughter, we just actually last weekend had a competition here locally. I've got another one I'm flying to Tulsa in 2 weeks for. So showing horses, horses in general have always been just my release. It's the one place that I can go and truly I do not think about work. It's great. The gym, I'm thinking about work, solving problems, but it's actually my secret weapon because I think movement, or I know movement helps your creativity. And so that helps. When I'm at the horses, it's like Chris calls it Sheley time. He's like, when will you be home? He's like, oh, never mind. You don't even know time when you're out there. And I'm like, you're right. And now my daughter's there. So I can be like, no, she's riding, like we're doing it. So horses have been my out. And I will tell you, and I will tell every mother, business owner this, be selfish with that. Be selfish with whatever it is that is yours. If it's reading a book in the morning, if it's, going for your walk, if it's having coffee with friends or a cocktail with friends, whatever it is, be selfish with that time. As we were building the business, I never let go of riding horses, even though it was stressful at times financially, or it was stressful time-wise, I never let go of it.
That's fantastic. And you have something that's important to you and you stay true to it. I love that. That's really good advice. Okay. Last question I have is, imagine yourself sitting on a park bench and this big old 9-month pregnant woman comes waddling to sit down on the bench next to you. And that pregnant waddle that people do.
Oh yeah.
They're ready to go. And it's her first child. And so you get talking. And now that you have, your children are a little older, they're in their teens now. How and what advice would you give that mother at any stage? It doesn't have to be just as a new mom. What advice would you give her?
I'm laughing because as you started this conversation, I'll give 2 pieces of advice if that's okay. Because the new mom, first child, and if you're any type of a high achiever and independent, you've been doing your thing for so long. I will tell you, this hit me like a ton of bricks with my first was, remember to survive the first month. Just survive. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to achieve. You don't have to do anything. Just survive that first month and know it gets easier after that. I was hit with a ton of bricks. My independence was immediately taken away from me. I was very passionate about breastfeeding, like all of that. And I didn't realize everything that came with it. So I had to adjust to that. So that would be my number 1 advice. And number 2 is, and this is something I actually got from my husband, is bring him along. Yeah. Everything, bring him along. You're running to Home Depot, bring him along. You're going to the grocery store, bring him along. Talk to him about it in the car. We where we live here in Arizona, we with the horses, we're a little bit out of town. It's like a 25-minute drive to school. To my son's gymnastics is 35 minutes away. So we have a little bit of driving time. I listen to podcasts with them. We have great conversations in depth. I use that drive time as time to connect with them. And, I just think it's important with how busy we all are. Listen, we're all so busy. So it's like capitalizing on the time that you have. And I find that my drive time and bringing them along and like talking about the business or a challenge that we're having or something that I was dealing with back in work, like talking to them about it, bringing them in on it, asking their opinion, what would they do? And helping them think and learn how to think, I think is probably one of the best things that we've done for our kids.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. If our listeners wanted to get a hold of you or find you, how would they do that?
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you're over there, come find me. I always love connecting with like-minded ladies. And, just my name is spelled funny. I'm sure it'll be in the notes, but make sure you grab me and let's connect.
That's fantastic. And I love that you said, I'm not a coach and I have nothing to sell. Just come find me. You know, the fact that you're doing this is amazing for that reason. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course.
And mompreneurs, just know that the advice that Sheley gave you is fantastic and it's from the heart because obviously she's a very successful business owner. She knows what she's doing. And if you are somebody who, especially in a male-dominated industry, like we both have been, it can be tough. If I told you the name of one of the books I'm writing, you'd probably spit your whatever you're drinking out shock, but it is going to be one of those books that is coming soon, and it's just something that's important to know that you are valued and you have something to offer everybody. And so it's not just the moms, it's not just the women, it's everybody in this planet. So thank you for listening and have a great day.
Thank you.